Welcome to this She's a Changemaker speaker series. My name's Anne-Sophie Dumetz, and I'm here to have some really raw, honest, truthful conversations with female changemakers about what it takes to build businesses that both spread love, change lives, while also filling your soul in your bank account. Doesn't that sound great? So today I am talking with Anne Perry. Anne Perry is the fearless founder of the Business Heroine magazine. I've met her and she is completely magical, and I'm so thrilled to share her with you today. So Anne, actually, after years of being burdened by debt and suffocating jobs, she was determined to really escape the hamster wheel. So maybe some of you have been there before, and we're going to ask her about that story, about what happened to leave what was felt like a trap and to escape from that. So she's actually pioneered her own path to freedom, and she's built a business Heroine magazine. It's called the Business Heroine magazine, and it's a platform where she broadcasts the voices of women whom, despite their obstacles, decide to break free from the mold and also create life according to their own design. It's about saying that you're going to do it and doing it. So, Anne, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Anne-Sophie. I'm excited.
Yay! So we're going to dive right in. I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. And because we're talking today about what it takes to know that you're building the wrong dream and to realize that's what's happening and make a shift, I'd love if you could even pinpoint that moment for you and really describe what happened. How did you know that your life needed to change and you were the one who needed to change it? So take us back.
Sure. There's actually several stories I could share with you about building the wrong dream. The first one, I can't even say I was building a dream. I was just building a life that was, sort of the status quo 9-to-5 box of a life that we are taught is the way to do things in our society. So it's like, I think that I woke up and went, this isn't my dream. And really, what is the point of this? So we wake up, we go somewhere to some job that we feel lukewarm about at best, or in my case, it wasn't terrible, but I didn't love it, giving away my best energy for something that I'm sort of so about.
Yeah.
And then the leftover scraps at the end of the day are what's left for me and my life. And then we just do that over and over again to pay the bills, and then one day we die. That's what life is about, Yeah. And so I was just kind of looking at that going, what was the point? It's we're taught all along. It's you got to get good grades so that you can go to college. You got to get a good grade so you can get the degree, so you can get the job. And I was kind of going, what is the point of all this?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't my dream. So, I ended up having one of those leap of faith moments. On the side, I was getting certified in some energy healing modalities. And so I thought, what if I had my own energy healing practice and I made that my business, and I could be in charge of my own hours, and I could probably work less hours and make more money and have more freedom in my life, and I could be doing something that's really interesting, that makes a difference for people. And so I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. But I quit my job, no savings, no safety net, and I started up this energy healing practice. And somehow I got some clients, and I was doing work that I really loved, but it wasn't enough. And I started falling behind on my bills and started falling behind on my mortgage. And so here I was with just all this credit card debt that I'd racked up from, kind of working these low-paying ho-hum jobs, and then my student loans, and then my mortgage for a condo I lived in Denver. And one day I was actually walking to the coffee shop around the corner from my place to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I was counting the change in my pocket to see if I had, not my pocket, my purse, to see if I had enough money for a cup of coffee. And I start hearing my cell phone ringing, and I knew immediately that meant it was 8 o'clock in the morning, because that's when the bill collectors would call. And it was just that was one of those moments where I'm like, how did I let myself get here? How did I get myself to this place where the bill collectors are calling me? I don't even know how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm falling more and more behind. And why? All I want to do is be self-expressed in the world to make a difference and to survive in return. Is that so much? And so that really became the beginning of a dream, which was, I didn't even know that I didn't really think about the term entrepreneur at the time. I didn't know what that really was, but I just knew that there had to be a way to design life differently. And it kind of occurred to me, if I'm putting all these, if all of these roadblocks and obstacles are in my path, what if I put them there by the choices I've been making? And so what if I chose to make different choices and decisions and paint a new picture, like decide I'm not going to settle for this or that. I'm not going to allow these types of experiences to be my reality. And so that was a really big decision point where I think probably for the first time I decided I was going to have a dream and that I was going to claim it for myself and that it had to be possible. And so at that point I just started digging into every book I could find on personal development, on money, on business, started going to any free seminar I could because I was broke and going to them multiple times. And so that was the beginning of probably the first time I had that experience. And then, there were other points along the way because it wasn't an overnight thing. It's not like I had that moment and then all of a sudden here I am with Business Heroine magazine. It was a journey and there were stumbling blocks and I remember at one point along the way, I had my own business. I had built my own business with my own clientele, but I had built a business that was work I was good at, but that wasn't my passion. And that left me burnt out and exhausted.
It was fulfilling, but it was still not quite the right dream yet. Like there was still a misalignment with who you are and how you were implementing it. I want to touch back on the moment that we talked about, because it sounds like in that moment you learned to let go of some stories and some maybe BS thoughts. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about, for a woman who's maybe sitting here going, shit, I'm in that holy shit moment or close to it where I may not have what I want and I know I want something else and I'm trying to bring in what I want, but there's that realization that there's so much you need to let go of sometimes. So I'd love to hear your perspective on some of the thoughts, beliefs, or the kinds of actions or stories that you personally had to let go of, or that maybe you've seen clients having to let go in order to be able to make that leap in that initial moment.
Yeah, I think, back at that time, part of it was witnessing other people do things differently. Out of college, and I mean, this was years out of college, a few years out of college, but it was like, I had friends who were like, oh, I'm going to just go like backpack around Europe and then I'll get a job. And I just remember thinking like, oh, that must be nice. Like, how are you just going to do that? I was sort of immediately felt like I had to jump into paying bills. Like, and so part of that was like an identity that I believed that was sort of how it worked, was just work hard and struggle and pay bills. And that was something that I had modeled all along. But what was interesting was looking at people, for example, who didn't necessarily make tons of money, but they had a lot more freedom than I did. It's like they just approached life a lot more simply. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't overcomplicate things. And it's like, here they are having these freedom-like experiences, and they're not millionaires. It's like, that's just, and so when I looked at that, it's like, it just comes down to a choice. And it all comes down to choices. It comes down to those big, huge decisions, but it also comes down to the moment by moment choices on, what to spend money on, or what to say yes to, or what to say no to, what you are willing to accept as that's handed to you or not. Like, so that was one of the things that really inspired me, was like, it can be a lot simpler. We don't need to I don't need to overcomplicate my life. I can just kind of paint the picture of what I want. Everything else, like, it just doesn't have a place. I'm not choosing drama, Mm-hmm. And it wasn't drama in like Housewives of Orange County kind of drama, but it was just like internal, like unnecessary struggle drama,
Yeah. So it's like that drama was like, do I do this? Do I not do this? And being this confused space of not necessarily trusting yourself or your decisions. And whereas,
or just not being intentional about what I allow in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like in that shift, there's a redefining of a whole bunch of stories, including what does freedom mean? Like, it sounds like you looked at those other people and you saw like, wait a second, they're giving themselves the freedom they choose to have. And so I mean, part of these conversations are about also sharing permission to free yourself to write a different story. So maybe that's a good touch point to then lead into how do you then start to trust yourself to follow your own flame and your inner fire and whatever that big vision is that you have that's only yours, versus somebody else's. Because in that place of looking at everybody else, it's easy to fall into comparison-titis. Like, she's got this and she's got that and I don't have this. So what do you have to say about that, following yourself, and even that moment of, I imagine one day you probably woke up and said, I'm going to make a business heroine magazine, so that, what was the road leading to the clarity, and then how did you start to walk that?
I think that, I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're asking, but I feel like I've always in a way trusted myself. Like, it's like I have trusted what I want or don't want. Maybe I didn't trust that I know how to do it, but I think that it's if you have a desire, if you desire something, I believe if you desire it, it's meant for you, or at least there's something in there that's meant for you. And so it's really kind of about tuning in to what about, maybe even if I am witnessing somebody else's life or experience, going, what about that do I want for me? Like, if I'm feeling envious of this person that's traveling around the world, that's probably because there's something in it for me. Yeah. If I'm feeling envious of somebody who has just this kick-ass business that I think is so awesome, it's like, there's something in there for me. But there's also, so there's that, but then there's also the, like, really being true with ourselves about what's really in alignment, because we can sometimes get caught up in, like, I think I want that, or I should want that because that's sort of like how it's done, or that looks a certain way. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, I mean, I like to think of business, for example, as it's like a build your own pizza. It can be exactly what you want. Like, put the toppings on that you want and leave the toppings off that you don't want. If you don't like mushrooms, don't put them on your pizza. If you want extra cheese, put the extra cheese on your pizza. Like, what's so cool about entrepreneurship and business and, your Changemaker community, it's like our life can be anything we want, and we're the ones who get to pick. And it's just, all you can eat buffet, and you put on your plate what you want on your plate. I don't know, is that answering your question?
I mean, I love the build your own pizza analogy, because it's really simple, but it is really about, taking ownership of choice and creativity and being okay with, doing whatever it is that you feel like having on your dish, as opposed to comparing and being, I want what she's having all the time, and then not feeling good about what you have. So so we've talked about, freedom. I know we didn't share this part of your story, but you also traveled a bunch when you were starting to create your dream, and so I don't know if you want to touch about that, but in terms of how that gave you maybe some more space to create. I do want to fall into maybe talking about the top 1 to 3 strategies, or the kinds of assets that a woman would want to be, do, have, or feel as she's getting herself ready to step into the version of herself she's not yet, but she knows she needs to become to create her biggest dreams. So I'll let you weave.
I'll touch on the first, and then I'll probably ask you to remind me the second.
Sure.
So, the first about the travel. So I kind of alluded to that a couple times. Like, that was something that to me felt like a pipe dream. And could I really do that? And so, I looked at freedom as like, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? And to me, there's these different types of freedom that we're drawn to. And one freedom is, it's financial freedom, right? The ability to not be trading our time for dollars and worrying about how we're going to pay the bills and all that, just like having that financial freedom. What comes close to that is the time freedom. Because once you have financial freedom, you are an owner of your own time, and your time isn't being dictated by somebody else or all that. Another freedom that, at least for me, was really important was location freedom. And that's the ability to, do the whole, like, work from the beach on a laptop kind of thing, or just be wherever. And, instead of, only being able to go somewhere for 3 days because you have to get back to work, it's like, I could go there for 3 weeks and just work while I'm there, that kind of thing. and then another freedom, which to me it all boils down to, is soul freedom. Like really that freedom of self-expression, that freedom to be creative, because it's like if you have all the time and money in the world and you can go wherever you want, it's kind of all comes down to like, I guess what we're talking about, like inventing your life how you want it to be, expressing what you want to express, communicating how you want to communicate. So going back to this travel bit, for me the freedoms happened in the first freedom that I created was location freedom. So I wasn't quite building my dream yet. Like I had created my own business. I had some clients, but like I said, that's what ended up bringing me to burnout, because I was doing work that I was good at, but that I wasn't passionate about. And that took a lot of energy. And so like while I was traveling, I was also running myself into exhaustion in some ways. And it wasn't because of the travel. It was because the freedom of self-expression wasn't there. Yeah. So anyway, the soul freedom wasn't there. That's a nutshell about the travel piece. Remind me the other part of the question.
So the kinds of strategies, assets, or elements that a woman who really has that little voice saying, I'm here, I know I'm here to make a big difference. I've got something to do. I'm not quite there yet. So what are the top 1 to 3 things you feel she would need to be, do, or have, or feel to really be able to emerge as a change maker? And I'm calling upon the part of you that is a no bullshit kind of person to just show up and share whatever is the thing that you wish you could have heard sooner.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about some of the internal stuff, and then there's some more sort of external stuff. But the internal thing, like when you first just start asking the question, the word that comes up is alignment. And this is, I mean, it's critical, and it's not a cute, fluffy notion of like, it's sort of, oh, it's an aligned business, or I'm authentic in my business. Like you have to choose alignment, or you end up burning yourself out, or you end up just working way too hard, or things don't get off the ground and they don't get moving, or you come across as like icky and manipulative and weird, so it's kind of like, but I mean, it's really good news. It can take courage to choose the aligned way at every juncture. Again, with the big decisions and the small decisions, it's like really all it comes down to is making decisions and taking action on those decisions, right? Yeah. So when you're making decisions, being really clear that you're in alignment. So that, I mean, it kind of, it's like personal development and spiritual development are not separate from business. So this is why,
I'm like, hi, 10, sister. Yeah, totally.
I mean, so it's like with the alignment piece, that requires going within and getting clear with yourself. And you can get those signposts from the outside. When something feels really efforty and struggly, you're probably doing something that's not in alignment. So for example, it's even just the way that you communicate or the marketing. There's like a zillion ways that you can market, but when you're choosing what's in alignment, you're choosing the path that has the most ease and grace, because you're choosing what's in your nature. So that means like the natural way that you operate, just your natural mode of operation, the most natural way is the most powerful way. So, and that also means, so with how you communicate, with what you put together for your offerings, for your business, with how you talk, just like all of it. It's like, just be you. And so get to know you, and then choose you every step of the way, and choose the highest version of you that you want to be, but not like an invented version of you that you want to be. It's like choose the real highest self you. And so anyway, that takes courage, and it takes like self-awareness, and we all stumble because it's like we just sometimes we think we want that, and maybe that wasn't what we wanted, and whatever. We learn some strategy, but maybe that strategy just doesn't fit us. So,
and it feels pretty like naked and vulnerable sometimes, to just actually, it's like really standing in front of a mirror and looking at yourself, being really, I like to call it soulfully naked, you're like, oh my God, here I am, and learning to love it all. But I love the little tips that you gave about if it feels hard in the marketing or in the messaging and the words aren't coming, then those are all clues and tips that maybe you're not quite aligned yet. So as opposed to getting frustrated with, it's hard, it's not working. It's not even like, yes, writing is rewriting, but it's also questioning, like, am I writing what I really need to be writing? Am I doing, is my message what my message really is? And to give the ladies who are tuning in an illustration, you know, I shifted out of a brand called Game Changing Parents to do She's a Changemaker. And Game Changing Parents was fairly effortless because it's still pretty aligned, but it's not like this. I mean, to write my banner and the blurb, it was like I channeled the words and there they were. Like I didn't even have to work for them. They were just ready. So it's like,
and you can feel it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, there's good stuff in the oven and you open it and you're like, ta-da! You know, like you just take it out and it's there and you're ready to eat it. So it's just definitely a different feeling about it that goes on. So what you're saying, you know, in that alignment is listen to the signals that are showing up as you're working. And check in with yourself. Do I need to tweak or not? So,
and I wanna add another piece, which might sound completely contradictory, but it's not. You know, I mentioned like there's an internal piece and there's an external piece.
Yes.
Because the flip side of that is like really getting honest with yourself. Are you actually doing the work? And that sounds maybe kind of obvious, and but I can't tell you how I did this myself, and I see my clients have done it too, which it's like you think you're working on your business, but you're not actually working on your business. So what I mean, like for myself, is it took me years and years and years to get my business off the ground. This is like pre-business heroin and other things. And it's because I had all these plans. I had it all perfectly organized. I have this like genius business model figured out, and it's so awesome. And it all lives in a Microsoft Word document in my computer. There are no clients. There's just like all these awesome ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a major trap that we can fall into. And actually, you heard me talk about this at the conference where we got to meet in person, which was fun, but which is I call it the mechanics of breakthrough. And I won't go into the whole thing now because that could be like a whole hour conversation. Yeah. But it's ultimately, there's this point where we always hear, there's like, you have to step out of your comfort zone kind of thing. Like there is an edge that is, it's like I call it the courage zone. And it's like, it requires courage to take actions that maybe you've never taken or that feel uncomfortable, like making those scary phone calls, like actually putting it out there. Mm-hmm. And what can happen is we can spend a lot of time just inside that courage zone in what I call the anticipation zone, which is where you can really, really trick yourself that you're doing things, but you're not. You're kind of like, it's like you're figuring out math problems and you're like moving things around and shuffling things around. And it's like, oh, you know, maybe this isn't exactly the way it should be. I think I need to go back to the drawing board and just change that up a little bit and then it'll be ready. Or I need to actually get my website up and then I can start offering to clients. Or I need to like, you know, I think I need to rebrand and then I can. And so there's always like these ways that we can trick ourselves where it's like as soon as the heat is on, that's what the courage zone is made up. It's like a ring of fire. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we feel that heat, it is so natural and so tempting to you know, shrink back from that heat because, you know, who likes fire in their face and you're inhaling smoke and it's like, it's scary.
Totally.
This is the, you know, you asked me to bring out the no bullshit mm-hmm. piece. And this is it, because really, really take a look at, are you doing those pieces that require the courage? Because what you want is on the other side of the courage zone. And you could spend years, I mean, sadly, many brilliant entrepreneurs die with their ideas inside them. And that's because they're kind of like stuck in that anticipation zone. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. And I want to pick up one phrase that you used in your example is I'm going to do blah, 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 and then it'll be ready. And so it's like almost like the moment you notice yourself thinking and saying, I just need to do X, Y, Z, and then it'll be ready. It's probably the time to make it less perfect and take that action anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's like I had this speaker series, you know, I could have made it more perfect, given it more time, and it's perfect as it is because it's happening. Right. And so like it's going to be useless sitting on my computer being a dream. So and then it'll be ready. It's like noticing that practical, am I actually bullshitting myself and thinking I need to do more? Or can I just, you know, get the baby out and nurse it as it grows? And
no judgment, because we all do it. But, you know, one little trick to get past that is like, give yourself a date that XYZ has to happen, and all those logistics, they will get done.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the logistics first before you set the date for whatever it is that you need to do, like make the phone call or schedule the interview or whatever, it'll just be like this endless thing.
Yeah.
If you
and I have to say, like, I'm going to use this event as an example. You know, for me, it was like a little desire that showed up. It was like, I really want to do this. This is why. This is whose life I want to impact. And then this is who I feel I'd love to hear speak. And this is the kind of stories I think need to be shared in this community. And then how came later, you know, how was like down the list. But, you know, picking those dates helped. And in terms of the busy work too, one thing I've noticed that can be helpful is imagining, especially when you work from home, that somebody's sitting next to you working and they're looking over your shoulder. You know, and if you imagine that and you feel embarrassed that they're looking, then you're probably not doing the right things. You know, if you have that feeling of getting caught, that's usually not a good sign. Yeah. Okay. So those are really great. So an inner and an outer strategy. So all the inside and the outside pieces make that whole. Is there? Well, actually, I didn't start with this, but I am curious. If you had to define what is a female change maker to you, what would you say?
A female change maker. I mean, to me, there's two pieces to it. One is, again, I guess internal and external. Maybe that's a little theme for me today. But the internal is knowing. It's like you see something crystal clear about the world that the rest of the world is a little bit asleep about. Maybe you have your tribe of people who also get it, but it's like you see something in the world that you're like, if I could just give the world a magic pill or wave my magic wand or flip a switch and have everybody just be aware of whatever it is, like that is a message, and that is that's something that you see, that's the change you want to make, I guess. So it's like having something that you want to change, that you feel passionate about changing, that you know is possible. It's like you see a possibility for the world that the world might not necessarily know is possible, or at least not know how to get there. So that's the first aspect. And then, so that's the change part of Changemaker, right? The other part is the maker part of Changemaker. So that's really that's the person who not only sees that and has this desire to make a difference, but commits to making a difference, commits to choosing the path of going for it. And what that feels like, that goes back to the alignment piece, because it feels like being true to yourself when you are committed and dedicated to creating and making the change that you know is possible for the world. You're also committing and dedicating yourself to your soul, to yourself. Yeah, I love that. So taking the action.
Yeah. So I have an unplanned question that just popped up for me that I think I want to ask you. One of the things I love to do best when I work with clients or just in conversation in general is play with past, present, and future. Because I find that, you know, as big dreamers, our role is really to grow into our biggest dreams in whatever way. So what I'd love is for you to sort of time travel a little bit with your future self and ask, let's say, the version of you who is 20 years down the road, if she has any insights for you today as to what she wishes maybe you'd do, have, or feel more of or less of in your life now.
All right. First of all, nice house. 20 year in the future me. Yeah, it's on a bluff overlooking the ocean, so I just saw that.
Cool.
You know, I think that what I'm getting, the words aren't there, but I'll just talk and see if the words plop out. But the concept is like enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, surrendering to flow, surrendering to the flow of the universe. And it's like, I know I'm this way, and I know a lot of just natural born entrepreneurs are this way, is can be impatient because we see the change that we can make. We see the, you know, exciting visions we see the future a lot. Like, we're future oriented people. And so it's like, okay, and I want that to happen now. And so it's like, you know, even now when I look back at the past 5 years or the past 10 years, it's like, if you knew it was going to turn out how it's turned out, it just kind of takes that pressure off. It takes that like any sort of rushy energy off. And also, so anyway, what I'm getting is slow down even more, listen to the universe's wishes as opposed to informing your wishes on the universe, like, or imposing your wishes on the universe. It's like, allow the universe to work through you, be used up, like be a tool for the divine, as opposed to like having your own sort of like mind's concept about how things need to go. This is something that's been a theme for me for this new year, and that's what my future self just said to me too, is again, it's like that same, just emphasizing that, like surrendering to flow.
Slow, flow, and create. That's what I heard.
It's create from the listening as opposed to creating from the like demanding, if that makes sense.
Trust, from the trusting part. Cool. I think it's always fun to, you know, have those little inquiries with our future self.
What does your future self tell you? Your 20-year future self, and is she like my neighbor at a cool house by the ocean?
She might come surfing there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I'm getting a bit of the take a chill pill vibe from my future self too. Be like, it's all good. Like, it's all good. You're doing exactly what you need to do, and just like enjoy this moment, because like I think what I'm getting in the chill, it's kind of like saying, look, like whatever the resistance has been, whatever the things that you have felt have been stopping you, it's all melting away anyway. So you might as well just move forward and continue being where you need to be. And the thing that I've gotten and I keep getting more and more is just play more, because it's none of this is work. Like, this is life, this is fun. And the more you play, the more you love, the more you laugh, the more you enjoy, the more you spread love. I mean, I would have to, even if I look at what I'm saying, spread love, change lives, like that's a message that would have scared me to say 2 years ago. And now I'm like, that's the only fucking way. And I think my future self is just saying, just do that, you know, learn, spread love inside your own heart and through this work. Like that's your only job, you know? So
can I say one thing about that play piece?
Yeah.
Because I love the play piece. That goes back to alignment, and it goes back to the build your own pizza. Because, like, I often say, when you're doing what you truly love, Monday morning is the new Friday night.
Totally.
Because it's like, think about, we are like little kids on the playground. You know, we're in third grade, and it's, I don't know what you did when you were in third grade on the playground. I was usually with my friends, like, inventing some game. Like, we were detectives, and we had to solve a mystery, or, like, you know, things like that. It's like whatever make-believe game. Mm-hmm. That's all business is. Like, oh, what if I have a magazine and then like I interview people? It's like, okay, that's what I do, that's my job, that's my career. I just made it up like I'm a kid on the playground. And same with you. So I love that. And so if we think about our businesses and the change we're here to make as change makers, if we think of that as a game that we get to invent on the playground and it's for play, then you're naturally choosing what's aligned. You're naturally coming from a place of love, you're coming from a place of abundance, you're coming from a place of generosity. And it's like, that's powerful.
Totally. And there's actually, I've done a little bit of research about the science of gaming, just through listening through interviews and some TED Talks. And I don't remember her name right away, but, Jane McGonigal, she's done a ton of research. But basically, like, you can really game yourself to be more successful, and it's a way of hacking your own brain. And so, like, in my She's a Changemaker Facebook community, every Monday I post a Magical Mission Monday, and it's a game, you know. So the game is, what's the mission for the week, what is the reward that you want to give yourself once you create this, and how are you going to keep yourself accountable. And every day, like, I really want the women who are in this community to think about how they can play with their own goals and with their mind and with themselves, because when you make it fun, like if you do things the fun way, you want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So, build your own pizza is way more fun than ordering straight from the menu. So, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Awesome. So, all right, we're about to wrap up. So, last chance, any last nugget that you have coming up around that, things you want to share around anything to do with spreading love, doing work that changes lives, that fills your soul, fills your bank account, any truths that are coming up? This is your moment.
Well, I actually just want to. This is my moment. I want to borrow from what we were just talking about and what you brought up. It's like I love this idea of asking your future self, the 20-year version, the 20 years in the future version of yourself, what advice would help me right now, because it kind of like puts things in perspective. And then I also like the idea of going back and asking, what would the little young version of me on the playground, how would that version of me play with this aspect of my business, or with this marketing, or with this like whatever, and bringing that aspect of play into it. So I'm really just taking your insights and reflecting them back. That's what I would leave.
I love it. Perfect.
Change makers with.
Yes, so play more with your future self, little girl self, and then have fun today.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you. So for everybody who has appreciated this interview, thank you so much, Anne, for being here. And I know you wanted to invite people to join you in the Business Heroine magazine community. Do you want to just share a quick note about that?
Sure. So just go to businessheroinemagazine.com, businessheroinemagazine.com, heroine spelled with an E. Just when you subscribe to the magazine, it's totally free to subscribe, and then you'll also receive a couple extra goodies like the Invent Your Dream Business Quick Start Guide to Your Self-Made Career, as well as the Business Manifestation Formula, which is about how you take those inspired ideas that are swirling around in the etheric realm and bring them into the physical realm through the form of your business. So those are some goodies you get when you subscribe at businessheroinemagazine.com.
Awesome. And you can read my column there too. There's a She's a Changemaker column, and I'm also starting to answer questions as well in the Ask a Heroine, so that's exciting. All right, so thank you so much. So everybody's here. Like, honestly, Anne is amazing. She's actually going to be guest teaching in the launch program that's coming up pretty soon too. So we're going to talk about business model hacking, which is about really playing again with your business. So if you watch this interview and there's something that really struck a chord, inspired you, and maybe you thought of a woman or more than one woman who could really benefit from this interview, my invitation to you is to act on that inspiration and take action, because you never really know when what inspires you might change the life of someone who might change the world. So especially your world. So please, take a moment to share this interview series. It's completely free. So it really will take you 5 minutes to maybe change somebody's life. The URL is she'sachangemaker.com. We also have the She's a Changemaker Facebook community where we're keeping the conversations going. And you can tune in for more of these interviews. Also, there's a masterclass coming up around the 5 elements that you really need to have in place in order to emerge as a change maker in this year and go from window shopping the dream to really enjoying and building the dream. So thank you so much, Anne, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And I will see you very soon for one more of these She's a Changemaker interview series.